Hello and welcome back. So today we will continue to work on our box. We got this far last time. I got the top and bottom half, and now how do you connect them? I'm going to start by putting a hinge on the back. And the first step to doing that is to roughly sand out a 45-degree notch on the side that you want to put the hinge on. So it's going to be on this side right here. This is the nice flat side, so that's why I'm going to do it there. So here we go. This doesn't have to be too exact, it really just is the beginning of forming a surface that the knuckles of the hinge will be able to be soldered to effectively. So I'm not worried about making this perfect anyway. Okay, so I already did this other side, if you hadn't noticed. And you can see, I don't know if you can see, but there should be a sort of a V groove right there. And the next thing we're going to do, and I didn't have it set up, but throw on a little tape. Let's get some duct tape out here. Doesn't have to be anything. Just to hold the two pieces tightly together. This just allows you to keep them nice and exactly where they should be for the next step, where we're going to file a groove. Can never have enough tape. Can never have too little tape. There we go. So, as for files, there's joint files. They're a little tough to get, but you can Google joint files or chenille. And you can also, and that's what I'm going to use today, is you can get files that are made for chainsaws. If you can get the smallest one available, I think this is one of the smallest ones available. They're nice. What they are is a round file, and most of your round files kind of get you in trouble when you're trying to make a groove for a hinge, in that they're not the same diameter all the way across. They sort of go down. Most round files swoop in and get smaller and smaller as you get towards the end. And that can get you into problems when you're trying to make a hinge and trying to keep this totally flat. What will happen is that you have some outside edges that will be more ground out than inside. And that's another thing you want to do when you're you're making this, is concentrate on the whole thing. Make sure you concentrate on making sure that you don't overly file out the ends. That's one of the things that happens a lot. So I'm going to start to do this, and I'm going to do it off camera because it's slow and meticulous work. And there's one thing about hinges, and I'm going to stress this a lot this whole video, is that you really got to be exacting. That's the best advice I can give you when you're trying to make a hinge for a box. Everything has to be perfect. Everything has to be exact. Patience, and you'll get it. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so I've finished filing the U-shaped groove in the side that I want to put the hinge on. You can see it's nice. It should be nice and straight across the whole box, and fit your tube nicely. I'm using a thick-walled sterling silver tube, and the next thing I do is to figure out how many knuckles I want and how big the knuckles should be. So I'll measure the box, and that comes to 40 millimeters. And you divide that by 3. You can make as many components of the hinge as you want. I'm going to go for 3 this time, but you can do 5, 7, 9. It's typically done in odd numbers, although I see no reason why one could not do it, make a hinge with an even number, as long as it's not 2. Then it wouldn't be a hinge, but 4, 6, you could do that. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to cut a knuckle that is 13.3 millimeters, and that will be the middle knuckle. And then the 2 outside knuckles I'm going to cut a bit longer so they overhang. And I've already cut the middle knuckle. And the 2 outside ones I'm going to score where I want it to be cut. And there are tube cutters out there, but I don't actually use a tube cutter. I'd rather use my little miter jig. The reason for that, first off, let's make sure that the edges are all nice and smooth, so I'll smooth those out. I'll have to do that again. Bring the camera over a little bit. Alright. Smooth them out. So I have nice edges on both sides. You don't need to take off much here, but you just want to have a nice perpendicular and smooth edge. And that's one of the reasons I use this miter jig, because this is the best way to get a really accurately smooth and straight perpendicular edge. So those 2 have been done. I've made a mark. If I can see it, you won't be able to. I think it's there. It's not critical, because these things are going to be longer than necessary. We're going to cut them off when we're done. So let's move that a little bit over. And I use a saw. Keep it flush with the miter jig. Okay, and then I'm going to clean up that edge a little bit so there's no burrs or anything. And I have one of my edges. And we'll do the other edge now. The other edge is done. It's just that there's, can you see? Well, I don't know. If you look carefully, you can see like a burr here. You want to get rid of that so that it will fit nice and tight against the other knuckle. Doesn't take much. There you have it. So I have my 3 knuckles, and just a second, let me get right back to you. Okay, we have our 3 knuckles done. Next thing we want to do is, I use a mechanical pencil lead to keep them all Sometimes this is a little tough getting these guys in there. You want them as tight as possible. And what I would suggest is, if you're going to use this type of technique, get different thicknesses of lead. And there's 0.5s, there's 5s and 7s and 9s, and there's a lot of different sizes that are used in mechanical pencils. So have them all available to you, and you will have the option, depending on this internal size of the hole of the knuckles or tubing you're using, you'll be able to fit it nicely. If a little piece breaks off, that's okay. Okay. And there we have it. So that's going to be our hinge. Now the next step we want to do is prep the box to give us the best chance of soldering the hinges onto the right spots without soldering onto one another. In other words, fusing two hinges together or soldering to the wrong side of the box. And what you want to use is some sort of resist material. Some people use whiteout. I don't. I use yellow ochre. Here's some yellow ochre. You can get a little bit of ochre, it'll last you forever. Absolutely forever. And so just add some water and mix it up. It's a nice, yeah, it's a nice sort of thick. This is a little soupy, I think. I want it a little bit thicker than this. And I can just bring down some more from the edges, or I could add some more powdered yellow ochre. So what I'm going to do now is paint this ochre onto the places in the hinge that I do not want the solder to flow. So I'm going to attach the middle knuckle to the top. So I want to do yellow ochre on the bottom. Yeah, this is you're not seeing this, but this is a little bit watery. So yeah, I don't like that at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this here. I'm going to allow this to dry out a little bit, or add a little bit more. I'm going to paint it and show you exactly how I do that. Well, how it all ends up. Okay? Okay, I've got the ochre in the places I want it. I also have put flux in the places I want the solder to flow on both sides of the boxes. And on the hinge itself, I put ochre in between the knuckles. See the little bits of ochre so that the knuckles don't accidentally fuse during the soldering process. And now I'm going to get this all set up for soldering and show you how that looks. Okay, we're all ready to solder now. So I have it all set up. I have a titanium clamp. You can see that holds it tightly together. You can pick these up. I think Cool Concepts sells them. But you can just Google titanium solder clamps or titanium strips for solder. It's pretty easy to find. They're pretty popular. Used to be that people always use binding wire. Really do not like binding wire. I was so happy when these things came around. So everything's set up nicely. Make sure that all the edges, the box itself is all flush. And okay, start to warm up the box itself. I'm not at all focused on the hinges, because that's very small mass wise compared to the box. So I'm going to keep the camera going, but I'll probably do a skip to when things start to happen. Slowly heating up the box. These carbon, they will catch on fire. Not to worry. It's just part of the process. When you start to feel that you have the heat necessary to get the solder to flow. And in this case, I'm actually using a medium hard solder. Give myself just a little bit easier time. But as I said before, always try to stick with hard solder until the very last steps, where you can start to go to different types of solder. A little bit easier flowing solder. Melting point is lower. Alright, that's flowed on that side, in the middle, top middle. Never concentrate on this. That's flowed. And I think that's good. So let's pickle it, quench it, then pickle it, and we'll see how it turned out. Okay, so it's been pickled. Hinges, one on the top, two on the bottom. Should fit together nicely, hopefully. It looks good. Hope you can see that. There's no gaps between the hinges. They don't want to move. And you can just put a pin in here. And there we have it. Here's how our box stands right now. So, nice hinge box. Our next steps are going to be to put some sort of clasp on the box so that when it closes, it closes and it stays closed, so it's secure. And then I will clean up the box as much as possible. There's a lot of little cleanups that need to be done. Whenever you do a hinge, I don't know if you can see that, but there's always this residue of solder that needs to be taken away with a good barrette file. If I can find the one I want to use. This one's nice. Then, you know, carefully just try to take off just the solder blob that is left behind. And I'll be doing that, most likely off camera. And you need to do that on this side too. You can see the high spots where there's quite a bit of messy solder there and there. But this will happen with the hinge. And there's really not much you can do about it. Or I should say there's really not much I can do about it. I'm sure there's people out here that know how to do exactly making a hinge perfectly without having any solder blobs. Of course, if you have a laser welder, none of this, all of this becomes really trivial. You just solder the pieces together. You can hold it while you're doing it. It's amazing. You don't have the luxury. You'll see that I have very, very, very few tools, power tools or expensive tools. All my work is done with just typical things that you'd probably see 100, 200 years ago. Files, sand. Okay, so what I'm going to do is clean up a little bit of the mess that I made here and get ready to put in a clasp. Now I'd like to do, I don't know what type of clasp. I'm probably going to just do a standard hidden clasp, which is just a friction clasp. In other words, it's a piece of sterling silver that goes on this inside. So when it closes down, it forms a nice seal, friction seal with the bottom. So let's do that. Let me get ready for it and I will be back. Okay, so I decided to just do something very simple, which is just to put a tab here, and when it closes it by friction, it will hold it securely. It's one of the simpler types of clasp one can have for a box, but might as well for our first box keep it simple. So what I'm going to do is mark where it comes above the edge of the top of the box. If my marker will actually mark. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to do something that I said, well, I rarely do, but in this case, it's okay. And because this is what we call a sweat solder, so none of the solder will be visible from the surface of the box or the inside or anywhere. So I'm going to use soft solder, and I'm going to put down a layer of soft solder just below this line, and then I'm going to clamp it onto here and melt the two together. So let me get this ready, and I will be right back. Okay, so first I just going to melt the soft solder. This is overkill torch here, but be careful. Here's my pick. There. All right. Now I'm going to sand this down. It's So it's a flat surface. It's a little piece of sandpaper. Nice. This is going to be, well, we're going to need some flux. Okay. Put the right side up. Make sure it's in the middle. And we'll get a little clamp here. Maybe something to hold the clamp. Alright, and again, double check, because moving these around, you want to make sure it's in the middle, and that's ready to go. So now we just heat up. Note that this is going to be a big heat sink, so you have to be careful of that. Kind of heat that up. Now this is actually sitting quite a bit proud, that or a lot higher than I would want, but you can easily take off material. Start to put material back on. And because it is such a heat sink, it does take a little bit more time. And you'll see when the solder is flowed, you'll see it just at the edge coming up. Yeah, there we go. A bit longer than I thought, but there you go. Now, be careful touching that. Just wait a few minutes. I'm gonna shut it off, put it in the pickle, and okay. So the clamp's on. I put the pin back into the hinges, and it's a little tight, but no, it's pretty good. So there it is. There's our box. Nice hinge on it. Clasp. Closes nice solid sound. I like that. And the thing to do now is to basically finish it, which means going around and getting everything even, polish it up, or depending on the type of surface we want, and we're basically done. So what are the steps that you need to know for this? Not really much. Snip off these guys, these ends, just like that. And then go around the whole box, sanding it nice and carefully. As you come back down, this will start to become flush with the box, the side. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to bring it back, and we'll see if we want to do anything else. Well, there it is. Pretty much done. You could call it done. I mean, or you could do a lot more stuff with it. But right now it's just a simple, elegant, minimalist sterling silver box with a hinge and a hidden away clasp. I think I'd like to clean up the inside a little bit. That might be done with tumbling. But there you have it, our first box together. And I hope there will be quite a few more. And this might even not be done. I could add a little bling to it. Maybe a stone, maybe I like to do astrological signs, or like, you know, I like to do the Pleiades, the seven sisters of the Pleiades. I also like to do the Big Dipper and the North Star. And those can be done out of gold. Sometimes I do them out of flush set diamonds. So you never know. But right now, I'm going to call this done. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again. Bye.